This is Rita Matuzik, and you are listening to the Real Talk, Real Results podcast, the show that does not sugarcoat B2B marketers' everyday challenges and discusses actionable, realistic solutions. Today, we're talking about how marketers can survive the shifting economy with Ram Sahu, CEO of Unbound B2B. Ram, thank you for joining us today. Can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself, your background, your expertise?
Thank you so much, Rita, for having me. And I like the motto that you have for the show, Real Talk. So that's really nice. Well, my name is Ram, and I'm co-founder and CEO of Unbound B2B. I'm a passionate technology salesperson, actually. And that is how I got into this business of helping salespeople and eventually grew into a marketing agency.
Thank you. Thank you for telling the audience about yourself. And let's get right into it. So we're talking about, a lot of marketers are facing challenges in today's market. We're being asked to do more with less. Some of us are finding ourselves completely rethinking our marketing strategies, our demand gen plans, ABM, all of it. What are you experiencing firsthand when you're out there speaking to buyers about their current challenges?
Well, honestly, budget cut is a real challenge right now and especially within the technology industry, the small to mid segment tech companies that are, trying to make their own space and solving real problems. They do need a lot of budget for marketing and awareness, but budget cuts are not helping. The most difficult part I feel of that I have firsthand, experienced with my clients or with my friends in the marketing industry is that the budget cuts come with layoffs. So that's the hardest part. Yeah, that's the hardest part. So, and marketers have to shift their strategy and then rethink about how they're going to still hit their annual goal and with lesser resources and lesser budget. But I think this was a scare a little bit at the beginning of the year. I think Q1, Q2, but everybody's adjusted to it well now, and I'm seeing that there's a good response in the market. With marketers coming back with very effective strategies that are very cost effective too. So one of those is that, especially in the B2B world, everybody's brought their focus back to ABM, wherein they know that, they can address a micro market and keep growing their business within that micro market. So,
yeah, no, I think that aligns to probably many of our experiences. And I like, where we were talking about how a lot of us are, with those resource cuts experiencing not just resource cuts with budget, but also with people, and things are getting a little bit less rocky. And, I think one of the strongest strategies B2B marketers have is the focus on ABM. Have you seen there be a shift in the way that marketers are planning their ABM strategies now versus, before when things weren't as tight as they are?
A lot of marketers who've been working on ABM strategy for several years or several quarters, they already have a lot of insights into those accounts. So, retargeting is a strategy which is helping the marketers. There have been major cuts on the paid media side, and the companies are relying on lower paid media budgets. I mean, depending on how their budgets are allocated, but what I've seen is there have been budget cuts on paid media. Like now they're not recklessly spending money on search engines and bidding for those $100 clicks. There is a shift in the way how they're spending, especially even if they're doing ABM. And then other than that, I think what is very helpful in this kind of economy is that, repurposing some of your content that you've already had. And then so stop producing new content. I mean, unless it's necessary, you don't need to produce new content. You can repurpose some of the old content that you've published the previous year or even this year, and reuse that for targeting, because there would be a lot of new audience that you have acquired over a period of time that hasn't engaged with that new content. And then as long as the content is relevant, you can continue to do that. So I've seen that happening. In terms of strategy, companies are looking at performance-based marketing as a strategy. And then again, it again comes to the agency level, wherein the agencies are now asked to perform at a performance level, right? So nobody wants to now allocate like a $500,000, million, or a bigger budget. They want to say, okay, I want a guarantee of cost per lead, and then a guarantee of number of leads. So that shift has happened, and I think all of this change that has happened is for good, because companies have started realizing that you can't be just spending money towards future acquisition. You also need to make sure that the acquisition that you've made today, that is bringing you the ROI, and then you make necessary investments in order to continue grow your business.
Yes, absolutely. I want to go back to what you said a little bit earlier around the investment strategies evolving and becoming a little bit more targeted. What would you say are some of the best channels right now to be on when you're facing, like a more limited budget or a budget that has more eyes on it and you're looking for, a higher rate of return?
So again, we spoke about ABM as a strategy, right? So, in terms of channels, email is my favorite channel because, it's virtually free once somebody subscribes to it. But other than that, so email marketing is number one. Companies need to focus on getting more and more opt-ins more cost effectively. And search engine and search engine marketing or search engine ranking is not necessarily the only way to do it. Social media also can bring in you a lot of opt-ins. What I know of is platforms like Meta. The cost of acquisition per lead is very low compared to LinkedIn, but you need to augment your audience correctly. And then you could partner with lead gen agencies who can help you get more opt-ins. So at a lower price. These opt-ins basically allow you to generate, continue to market to your targeted audience at a very, very low cost and effective manner. Besides, email marketing, I think social media is still very relevant. Brand awareness is necessary. So if you're cutting budget on something like a paid media, then maybe social media works, because social media, you already have a followership. There is a way to organically grow and increase your reach in social media. Deploying those strategies can help you to save dollars as well as continue to be relevant with your marketing strategy and continue to educate your target audience. And last but not least, I think programmatic advertisement is great, because programmatic advertisement allows you to take advantage of machine learning and AI, in order to how you're engaging with your audience, how you want to target them. What you could set strict goals in terms of what your cost per mile or cost per click would be, and keep optimizing those based on where we are publishing. So I think these are the three top strategies I would recommend in terms of top channels that I would recommend if you're doing ABM right now.
I love the free channels, the ones where we spent a lot of money in previous years to generate leads across all different paid channels. And then a big thing that we ask ourselves is, what next? How do we continue to market to people who have already engaged with us and given us kind of that first party intent signal of showing an interest? What happens next? Yes. Leads me to my next question, which is around intent data. What's your perception on, do you find that marketers understand what to do with intent data, whether it's their own, owned first party data, any type of like web analytics intent data, any kind of, data that we can get from tools like Bombora, 6 Sense, Demandbase, what's been your kind of take on that understanding in the industry?
Well, I like what is happening with intent right now, and but I'm a pro first party intent data pro. So as long as it's my own web properties and I'm able to track intent directly, that is what makes more sense. Third party intent is yet to grow. I mean, it's nice to have, but it's yet to grow, right? I mean, I'll give you an example. Let's say your target, you have any target keyword, and based on that target keyword, you are identifying an account list or a company that you want to target. But let's say that company has 5,000 employees. How are you going to determine who is that person or who these people were who were searching for these keywords, and how are you going to even target to them? Reaching out to 5,000 people or 10,000 people is virtually very, very expensive, right? So in a third-party intent, how I recommend third-party intent is that you have your ICP, you take your ICP, create a ABM layer, so create an account-based marketing strategy or create account list based on your ICP, and then you put an intent layer on top of that, right? So within your ICP, if you create a list of accounts, and within that, if you know that some of these accounts are searching for these keywords, you might want to prioritize those accounts within your marketing strategy. As far as first party intent is concerned, right? I mean, there are tools that help you to identify first party intent. There are some tools which are very expensive. So might be generating intent data is difficult. But what is necessary here is to understand this, right? So if you're tracking activity, right, look for those buyer signals, right? Because intent just cannot be that X number of users or users visiting a particular site with certain search keyword or with reading certain content. It needs to be very user centric. So as far as you can redefine how these users who these users are, and narrow down your target, I think intent really works, especially in the first party intent data scenario. Like I can give you an example, right? Let's say I have a Albacross or Lead Feeder or 6sense on my website, and if somebody if a user is navigating through a particular solution that we offer, now in that case, right, I mean, you first of all, you don't know that person, right, because you're just looking at a cookie data right now. But what if you prompted an opt-in, or what if you prompted a chat at that moment, right? And if you get in an opt-in, now you started identifying that person very quickly. Now that is how intent can actually help you. And now what is happening is you're not only looking at the companies that are showing interest in your product or services, but you're also looking at the exact person who is showing interest in your product and service. Intent is good to be here. It's just expensive. Somebody needs to make it cheaper, I think.
One of the things that we work on in terms of intent is I think there's a really interesting opportunity to layer that on top of programmatic advertising in your targeting that I've seen be underutilized. So that's an area where I think there's room for exploration. And then also depending on where you get intent data, right? Like G2 is an interesting platform. And if you have all of your web properties connected properly, you can get really interesting intent signals from people searching for solutions on G2, and you can pass that over to your sales team to help them better understand what's happening in the accounts that they care about. But that's getting into a lot of integration with systems and making sure the proper operations teams are in place. So a lot of we as B2B marketers have a lot of codependencies on other teams and functions to make sure that we're all successful, which does lead me to something I'd love to dig in with you. So sellers, not just marketers, B2B sellers are experiencing buyers who are a lot more cost conscious and risk averse right now when they're comparing brands, making purchases. How can marketing teams help their sales counterparts identify solid business opportunities that are likely to close?
Well, we spoke about intent, we spoke about, channels and strategies, but what we didn't discuss was basically analytics and tracking, right? So, marketers can actually track in order to make sure that, they can prioritize the accounts that will help sellers to close faster. What is important here to understand is that the layer between marketing and sales team, the SDR layer, right? That is where actually you are able to identify which accounts will close, which are likely to close very soon. So one is tracking, obviously all of that historical data that you are able to track and keep in your CRM. That enables the SDRs to customize their pitch. The SDRs are then able to interact with the individual and understand their priorities and the needs, and based on that, they can qualify those leads in order to send to this thing. So the SDR element is really, really important in order to ensure that sales is successful. And then on the sales side, obviously, if you've done everything right, if you've got the right accounts that you were targeting, right? And within those, for those accounts, obviously you need to have right case studies, you need to have right content and material to be this thing. So if marketing has done their job correctly of doing the brand awareness and generating leads within the same account, increasing the engagement from those accounts, and then SDR setting up those meetings, prioritizing prospects who have shown higher intent of conversion, those will get quick wins for sure.
Yes, yes. I love what you said about the SDR team, right? They're the first human touch, many times the first human touch that some of these leads are going to have after they've been engaging with digital content, digital environments, of course, anything that is like in person, any kind of event, there's going to be a lot more people interaction, but the SDR function is so vital to the success. Have you discovered anything that you would advise our listeners and how they can better work with their SDR teams to better enable them, to help them understand the kinds of marketing investments we're making programmatically, so that when they go to have those conversations, they can really be that conduit, that glue that, kind of holds us together and also helps progress, a lead from being an engagement to ideally an opportunity.
Right. So again, awareness is a big thing over there with SDRs teams too, right? I mean, everybody at each touch point needs to be aware of what is the journey of a contact from being a contact to becoming a lead, right? I mean, it's a very tedious process. It's not easy these days to just get a lead and close. So right from AE needs to understand the efforts that goes behind that, the SDRs and the marketing team that is doing, and then SDRs need to understand that effort. Besides that, what is important is that everybody in the team needs to be aware of not just the tracking and the analysis that we are doing, but also other facts. For example, I was talking to a CMO recently that I can't name, but I loved interacting with him is for the reason because when I asked him what is your cost per lead acquisition, he knew exactly what that amount was. And he could say exactly what is the cost per meeting that his A is costing, and then he could also talk about if a lead was of certain quality, has shown certain engagement with particular type of content, then what percentage of those contacts will convert into meetings. And that kind of insight was amazing, right? So that was very impressive. So that is what I'm talking about. So the CRO or the CMO, they need to first not just know this information, but cascade this information and make sure that everybody in the team knows about it, so that they become more accountable, right? So if you tell an account executive that the meeting that you're going to be attending today costed the business $2,200. So if he's aware of that, naturally the accountability comes there, right? I mean, you could see that. So so increasing that accountability within the team and by providing them the right information. I'm not saying that you put pressure on them. I'm just saying that there is a reality on which the business runs, and that reality, everybody in the team should be aware, whether junior or senior, doesn't really matter.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think understanding the right metrics of success, not just at a programmatic level, but all the way up to business success, is really key for teams across an entire organization to be successful, and also to understand where to make investments and understand where there might be gaps. That kind of level of detail helps inform the strategy for right now and for later. So I definitely agree. And so I want to check in with you on different ways that teams can utilize resources right now. And so, the theme of our conversation today is, the environment of economic and resource constraint. And where do you think it fits in for B2B marketing teams to work with external agencies? Or should they be focused on optimizing internal resources, knowing that they're facing these constraints? Or are we looking at some type of a hybrid solution for, being successful, for, completing all the work on our plates? And biggest of all, right? Like growing opportunities and revenue for the business and making sure we continue to, bring in that business so we're not seeing further resource constraints.
See, one is that almost everybody right now has a resource crunch because of the shift that has happened, right? And then with that, the need for agency has gone up for sure. But regardless of the current situation, let's just say this economic downfall was not there, or this strain on the economy wasn't there, and the inflation wasn't this high. Banks were not charging so much of interest rates, so that VCs could have funded more. So all of this has a rippling effect, the domino effect. Would you could say that?
Yeah.
But even if this wasn't the situation, I think agencies are very important to our enterprise world, especially in B2B marketing. But then you just have to make sure that they complement you, right? They make you better than who you are as a marketing team. And there are ways that agencies can help you, is because agencies are working with very similar companies or organizations globally, right? They might be able to bring you the knowledge and industry information that probably you did not have, or would have spent thousands of dollars just to learn that, or would have spent hundreds of hours to learn that. So they just, if they're bringing you that kind of information, if they bring that kind of value, they just make you look good. They make you run faster in your strategy and win more than you lose, right? And then other than that, marketers, I do want to say this to B2B marketers, that, hey, you cannot, just because you do not have a lead gen resource, that's why you would outsource to a lead gen agency and then get it from them. Or just because you do not have a developer to maintain your website, that's why you want to outsource to an agency and get a developer. I mean, all that doesn't make sense. You need to have a very strategic alliance with an agency. And then again, you cannot increase your codependency on one agency. So you've got to have multiple agencies. Again, this would also depends on how big your enterprise is, how big your marketing budget is. Based on that, you want to make sure that is done. But working with multiple agencies brings you that much of information and knowledge. But then again, I have rarely seen B2B marketers being inquisitive about what the agency is doing. All they care about is what they're doing, about what is that they're doing for them, or what is that they're going to do for them. They're not asking right questions. They're not asking them, hey, what's happening in the industry, right? You work with 10 more companies like ours. What is happening there? What are your learnings, right? What do you see is the trend? What is the shift? All this information is free of cost, available through an agency, and you don't need to wait for Gartner to publish a report on that. You can have that information and use that. But agencies are an important part of the whole B2B marketing piece, and they need to be there. Just make sure that they're the right fit for you. That's about it.
Yeah, I love what you said about it being a partnership.
Yeah.
And that though we need to rely on all types of resources, the strategy, the expectation, the communication of, what do we need to achieve together? What can we learn together should be a part of that conversation. I love that. I think everyone in the B2B space and the enterprise space knows that we are always learning. Like what we did last year, what we did 2 years ago, we just keep building on that and growing and evolving from there. And I love the idea of using your agency resources as a learning resource from what you're seeing, out there in the industry, what others are doing, what we could try, do better, A/B test, all of that. I love that. And one final question for our audience. What is your final piece of advice about just navigating this economy and our hope is for the future?
Well, to be honest, as soon as we see I spoke about the domino effect, right? So as soon as there's a change that happens there, it will automatically have that effect. So it's not that far. I'm already seeing market responding really well. This is a very personal experience, so it's not some data that I'm speaking about. I'm talking about 8 out of 10 customers asking me for, some kind of a next level move, or rather sharing budgets with me versus, 1 or 2 in the last quarter. So I'm already seeing that shift. How to navigate the current situation, in my personal opinion, and I've always done this, right? Whenever times have been difficult for me, I just put my head down and I go to work and I do my job. that and the nuisances around you. Just focus on what you're doing. Work with what you've already got. Whatever you have is already enough, right? I mean, if you're working with a 50% or 40% of your existing budget and you've still been able to do that for the last 6 months, you should go through the next 6 months too. That should not be a problem. And for everything, there is a solution. So keep looking for that solution. And it doesn't, money is not money. Yeah, it solves a lot of problems, but not all problems. So there's always another way around.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, for all of your insights. This was so lovely.
Thank you for having me, Rita. Thank you so much.